Good afternoon, everyone. This is Jeff Maxson, the Executive Branch Chief Information Technology Officer. We'll give just another minute or so with everything else going on before we get started. Alrighty, I think we'll go ahead and get started now. So we'll call the June ITEC meeting to order. And so with that, we'll proceed with roll call.
Kelly O'Brien, Jeff Maxson, Tom Day, Emil Berquist, Pam Curtis, J.R. Clays, Jeff Pittman, Adam Profit, Amber Schultz, Adrian Guerrero, Lynn Retz,
Here.
David Marshall, Greg Gann, Mike Maida,
Here.
Murray McGee, Steve Funk, John Berghaus, and
Here.
Alex Wong.
Alrighty, thank you, Selena, for the roll call. Thank you, everyone, for attending. I do know, kind of with the special session going on, a little bit of a smaller house today, but we'll kind of get through this in relatively kind of quick fashion because we do not have much on the agenda today. But first, make a motion to approve the March meeting minutes from the March 19th ITEC meeting. I have okay. Got a motion from Kelly. Do we have a second?
A second.
All right, seconded by Steve Funk. All those in favor of approving the minutes signify by aye.
Aye.
All
Aye.
those opposed by no. All right, minutes approved. All right, next on the agenda is Alex.
Action item. There's no action item from the last meeting, so okay, continue forward. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, our next agenda item is advisory board updates for ITAB. So have no update to provide. We indefinitely postponed ITAB due to the changes to ITEC from House Substitute for Senate Bill 291, which basically restructured ITEC. So we'll move into a presentation on what the bill had done to restructure ITEC and kind of the goals and deliverables from ITEC in its new form and fashion. So we'll go over that briefly. Thanks, Sarah. All right, so this is the last meeting of ITEC in its current fashion. So House Substitute for Senate Bill 291 proposed several new changes to IT governance in the state of Kansas and several requirements around cybersecurity, specifically for all three branches of government. So one of the most comprehensive IT bills the state has seen in a while, and also outline the structure of ITEC moving forward. I will caveat this that there was a sunset clause added to the bill during conference committee negotiations that if this doesn't yield kind of the intended direction that legislature had, it would basically roll everything back to its current state. I believe that sunshine goes into effect it's July 1st of 2026 if we do not produce anything that they feel is meeting their intentions as well. So, all right, House substitute for Senate Bill 291 essentially removed the legislative and judicial branch CETOs and also the responsibilities to abide by ITEC for certain provisions. So it effectively made the executive branch CETO the chair of ITEC moving forward, and then also adjusted some of the staff membership or the makeup of ITEC. So the goal previously of ITEC was to make up policies for all three branches of government and basically any state level government agency. This new requirement that they have put in here is more geared towards executive branch with a few architectural components that legislative and judicial branches still need to adhere to. And so in the slides, you'll see we're kind of citing some of the reference points of where those are within the bill itself. And so this does take effect July 1st. So again, kind of took the state agency definition that was kind of already there, but then basically put the caveats and exceptions for the legislative and judicial branch into it. All right, the membership and meeting cadence also changed as well, as I mentioned earlier. So again, the voting membership goes from 17 voting members down to 13. Essentially, the legislative CETO, judicial CETO, and the legislative members have all moved to non-voting members along with the chief architect. So they're still more than welcome to participate and be involved in the activities of ITEC, but they're no longer voting members. We are also adding several members from the Board of Regents or the Regents institutions that will now become voting members. So they're really requesting a stronger partnership between the executive branch agencies and the Regents institutions as well moving forward. So, and then also with this, we'll move from a quarterly meeting cadence to a monthly meeting cadence. And so more effectively, as we kind of were talking with legislators, that this is now more of in the capacity of almost like an IT steering committee for executive branch and kind of steering the direction of IT as a whole for executive branch. So having more of the business stakeholders involved in those decision makings. So again, as I mentioned, the two additional members coming in from the Board of Regents institutions. Steve, do you know when they'll be able to make the announcement on who those two members will be? On Thursday. Okay. So again, now quorum will adjust from 9 members down to 7 for enacting policies for executive branch. So it does change the quorum. So, and again, mentioned earlier, we'll meet monthly as opposed to quarterly. All right. So some of the big changes at ITEC in terms of the charges that the duties that it'll carry out is, again, as I mentioned, this is more of like going to be an IT steering committee kind of fashion. ITEC will be required to develop a plan to integrate all executive branch IT services in the Office of Information Technology Services. ITEC will develop a plan to integrate all cybersecurity services for state educational institutions as defined by KSA 76711 into OITS and the Kansas Information Security Office. And ITEC will report the plan to Senate Ways and Means and House Legislative Modernization or its successor prior to January 15th, 2026. So again, that gives ITEC approximately 18 months to develop a plan for these consolidation initiatives efforts. And again, this isn't doing the actual consolidation, this is doing a plan for consolidation. So over the years, there have been several studies about efficiency in IT and executive branch within the state. I think they've recognized that they're seeing a lot of other states pursue this activity in various forms and fashion. Some have been through executive order, some have been legislatively mandated, some have just been through natural progression. So they're wanting us to develop what a plan would look like and what that implementation might look like to consolidate state of Kansas executive branch IT into one agency. But again, as mentioned, if the plan that is produced isn't what they're expecting, there's a sunset provision to revert everything back at July 1st, 2026. But with that very high level, again, this is just to develop a plan. And there's still a lot of moving pieces. There are a lot of moving parts to IT funding, what that looks like in Kansas. There's federal funds that are involved. There's multiple lines of businesses, multiple agencies. So there are a lot of moving pieces of this. And so nothing is set in stone per se. This is just to be the steering committee. So a lot of feedback will be needed from this group as we move forward with this planning effort and what that looks like. So with that, I want to pause here for questions from members of ITEC as is.
So, Jeff, that Mike made it. So, are you looking at putting timelines in terms of having a draft by a certain date, or have we gotten that far yet?
Yeah, thanks for the question, Mike. No, we have not gotten that far. That is something we'll have to do. This is something likely that we'll probably need to explore, having a vendor come in to assist in these efforts. Make sure we're seeing everything across the landscape and trying to take everything into consideration through this process. So a lot of those things are still to be determined. But again, that's stuff that we'll have to work through as a group as well. So, Adrian
Guerrero with the non-cabs. Along that lines, is there going to be any report as to like JCIT, or is this something that we will need to do on when they meet?
Yeah,
certain occurrences.
This is a good question, Adrian. Again, Jeff Maxson. Yeah, that's something that my guess is it'll be upon us. It's not explicitly called out in the legislation that we need to report to, but we will likely need to report to JCIT our progress and status. I am sure they'll want to hear what is going on. I believe there's several members from the Legislative Modernization Committee on JCIT. So this is going to be something that will probably have lots of legs in terms of communication with multiple committees, because anything that requires a government structural reorg usually has multiple committees involved.
Okay, sorry, Jeff. Mike made it again. Was this legislation? Did it come with set goals up front, or just exploratory?
Yeah, that's a good question, Mike. Most of it was exploratory. And again, trying to go through the Wayback Time machine to remember various iterations, but initial iterations of the bill actually had consolidation starting this fiscal year. But we're concerned about there are so many variables. We need to assess what that looks like first. And so we tried to get a place where we could put a plan in place to assess what this actually looks like before diving headfirst into it. So if that answers it, in short, no, it's very much exploratory in this iteration.
Well, I would just throw out to everyone that I certainly appreciate doing this kind of work instead of reviewing policy. So thank you.
There will still be policy work through this committee. So.
Yeah, I know, I get it, but it's not the only thing we do. So
yeah.
So anyway, yeah, and this is I find this to be I love this kind of work. So.
And from my perspective, this is very much we were very adamant that we wanted the involvement of the local governments in this as well, because we are tied together in so many different fashions as well. So your input is also highly valued from the local perspective. Other comments, questions? Yep. Go ahead, Adrian.
I had one other question. Adrian Guerrero, does this affect the terms of appointments to ITECs? So for example, I'm coming up on the end of mine.
No. So
curious about reappointments.
Yep. I think that's a good question, Adrian. So for those that are appointed by the governor, those terms and timelines still exist. So you would have to put you up for reappointment when your term expires. So we'll have to work through that with the governor's office for the appointment. So those that are appointed by her will still have to work through the appointment process. So I believe those timelines are still the same too.
This is Steve. Since July is coming up really quickly, do we have thoughts on when the first meeting might be?
As we've worked through, thank you for that question, Steve. Again, Jeff Maxon, tentatively, so we can try and get our feet underneath us and have an agenda ready to start day one. We're looking at August probably being the first meeting timeframe, just so we can at least have stuff to start working through and hit the ground running. And I think we'll probably do the legwork to make sure all the appointments are up to date, or if we need people reappointed, and we can start that process too. Get that done early. Other comments or questions? All right, not seeing any, we'll go to Alex. Any other action items?
That's a discussion. Sandy?
Yep.
Else you wanna talk about?
Yeah, thank you for that. Apologize, I got ahead of myself. So open comment for open discussion, open comments, just in general. Secretary Schultz.
Amber Schultz, Secretary, Kansas Department of Labor. I have a little bit of a fun one. We are less than 100 days from our go live for our new unemployment insurance system.
That is exciting.
I know.
That was a impressive project for the timeline on the size of that project. So we're excited to see that one.
Thank you.
Other comments or discussion? Nothing. We'll move to the next item.
There are no additional action item collected, so
Okay.
go Bill. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Alex. All right. Last piece for not on the agenda, but is to recognize Kelly O'Brien, as this is his last meeting of ITEC, obviously, but also short time in it with less than a week left of time with the state.
2 days.
So,
Not that I'm counting. Thank you. I do appreciate working with you. Again, thank you. I appreciate working with all of you. I will miss it. So, but I'll be around if you need me. Ann knows how to get a hold of me. So, thank you.
righty. With that, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn the meeting. All right. I have a motion from Adrian, second. Second from Kelly. All in favor to adjourn? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Ayes have it. Meeting adjourned. Appreciate it, everyone. Thank you.